Hello, my wonderful and beautiful friends. Welcome back to Entitled People, where some folks genuinely believe everything revolves around them, no one else matters, they can do no wrong, and they are the center of the universe. This episode is going to be hilarious, featuring a lady who thinks she has the right to cut in line, a workplace troll moment, and some chilling office and family drama. I hope you enjoy these stories, just don't shake your head too hard. And as always, you can submit or link your own posts to this email right here. Now, let's get started. Story 1, Hilarious, You're Not Next. First up, we have an Entitled People drama where OP turns a rude woman's arrogance into a public embarrassment at a coffee shop. OP is just an ordinary person, standing in line to get their coffee. Picture a cafe with a glossy wooden counter, the rich aroma of roasted coffee beans in the air, the grinding of coffee machines blending with soft jazz playing from speakers in the corners, and the murmur of customers chatting, interrupted by baristas calling out orders. OP writes, I was waiting in line for my coffee when a woman cut in front, claiming she had the right to be served first. Well, I wasn't having it, and the entire cafe watched her humiliate herself. The star of this drama is Ms. B, your typical entitled customer, whom OP describes as around 60 years old, messy auburn-dyed hair, wrapped in a thick fur coat even though it wasn't cold, carrying an oversized handbag, with a shrill voice like a car alarm, and an attitude as if she owned the cafe. OP shares. She shoved past me, demanding the staff serve her immediately. I wasn't letting it slide, and how I handled it made her drown in her own embarrassment. All OP wanted was a simple latte before heading to work, but Ms. B's arrogance led to a masterful comeback that had me laughing and clapping at the same time. This is a story about cues, entitlement, and a hard-earned lesson. Are you ready? Buckle up, because Ms. B is about to crash and burn spectacularly, and OP will keep you entertained for the next 30-plus minutes. The drama unfolds on a busy Wednesday morning when the cafe is packed with customers grabbing their coffee before work. OP recounts. I was third in line. This ridiculously long line stretched from the counter to the glass doors, with polished wooden floors covered in footprints. I was casually checking my emails on my phone, daydreaming about my latte when Ms. B stormed in. She entered with a clanking handbag, scanning the crowd like a predator searching for prey, then blatantly shoved past me, pushing me aside like I was a lamp post. She yelled over the grinding coffee machines, "Hey! Serve me first, I'm in a hurry." I was stunned, turned to her, and said, ma'am, there's a line. I was already here. She shot me a sharp look and screeched, I don't have time to wait. If you're slow, move aside. OP continues. I stood there, staring at her, thinking, all right, lady, you want to play? Let's play. And honestly, I wanted to scream, Ms. B, what kind of cutting in-line logic is this? As OP stands their ground, Ms. B only makes things worse for herself. I shrugged and replied coolly, if you're in a hurry, wait in line like everyone else. I'm not moving. Ms. B's face turned red as she turned to the barista, a young guy, about 25, wearing a black apron, with his hair tied back, shouting, serve me now. I'm a regular customer. The barista glanced at the long line and replied, sorry, ma'am, we serve in order. Ms. B exploded, I don't care. I have an important meeting. Hurry up. I jumped in, ma'am, you're not next. I was here before you, and cutting in line won't change that. At this point, customers in the line start murmuring. A young woman holding an iced coffee mutters, cutting in line and still yelling, while a businessman in a suit shouts, get in line like everyone else. And I'm over here cheering, OP, you're making Ms. B drown in her own entitlement. OP escalates the situation by standing firm, letting Ms. B humiliate herself further. Ms. B wasn't giving up, she slammed her handbag on the counter, sending coins rolling onto the floor, and shouted, I'm a VIP. Get the manager. I crossed my arms and thought, oh, you want the manager? I'll wait and watch. The barista spoke into his headset, can you come to the counter? Moments later, the manager, a woman in her 30s, wearing a red blouse and a neat bun, stepped out from the back. What's going on here? She asked. Ms. B pointed at me. This girl refused to let me go first. I'm in a hurry, and she's blocking me. I immediately countered. She cut in line. I was third. Everyone saw it. The manager glanced at the line and firmly stated, "Ma'am, we serve customers in order. Please step back." And just like that, Ms. B froze, mouth hanging open, while the entire cafe chuckled. The iced coffee girl even shouted, "VIP?" More like very impatient person. And I was dying. OP, you just made Ms. B shoot herself in the foot in front of the whole cafe. Instead of backing down, Ms. B only digs her hole deeper. She screamed, "I won't accept this. What kind of management is this? You're siding with employees over customers." The manager remained calm. "I'm not taking sides, but if you cut in line, you'll have to step back or leave." Ms. B turned to me, "You just wait. I'll report this to corporate." I shrugged, "Go ahead, ma'am. I'm just standing in line." She grumbled, "Slow people." Before yanking her bag and stepping aside, but instead of leaving, she hovered outside the glass doors, glaring inside as if trying to intimidate me. OP adds. I stood there watching her act, thinking, "You wanted VIP treatment? Well, here's VIP treatment, your own personal embarrassment." Customers applauded. The suited man shouted, "Good. Kick her out so we can have some peace." And I was just laughing. OP, you just made Ms. B humiliate herself during coffee hour. The climax? Ms. B quietly retreats in disgrace. I finally ordered my latte. The barista chuckled, "Wow, she really thought she could get away with that." I grinned back, "Not a chance." Ms. B stood outside, glaring at me while I sipped my coffee, then mumbled something under her breath and left. The manager turned to me, "If she ever tries again, just call me." A few weeks later, OP returned and saw Ms. B quietly standing at the back of the line. OP asked the barista, "She doesn't cut anymore?" He smirked, "Nope. After that fiasco, she behaves now." And I thought, "Ms. B, you didn't just lose the battle, you lost the war." So, what do you think? Was OP smart, or is Ms. B just pitiful? Have you ever encountered a line cutter like this? Let me know in the comments. And next up, we have a workplace trolling moment. Stay tuned. Story 2, Humor. So why didn't you come before 10 p.m.? Next up, we have a drama from Entitled People where OP turned a customer's arrogance into a masterful troll that left the whole store in awe. OP is a retail employee working in a small electronics store, the kind with shelves packed with TVs, Bluetooth speakers, and tangled cables, the scent of fresh plastic mixing with old demo music playing from dusty speakers, and the sounds of bargain hunting customers blending with the creaking ceiling fan above. OP writes, I work at an electronics store. A customer arrived late and demanded a discount even though the sale had ended. I followed the rules, and he humiliated himself. The protagonist of this drama is Mr. T, an archetypal entitled customer whom OP describes as around 50 years old, with sweaty, unkempt hair, a wrinkled pale yellow polo shirt, a scratched-up old phone in his hand, a booming voice like a street speaker, and an attitude like he owned the store. OP continues. Mr. T arrived after the discount period, insisting that I sell him the product at a reduced price no matter what. I stood my ground, and the way I handled it made him embarrass himself in front of the entire store. All OP wanted was to close up after a long shift and go home, but Mr. T's demands set the stage for a sweet counterplay that had me laughing and clapping. This is a story about discount hours, entitlement, and a costly lesson. Are you ready? Buckle up, because Mr. T is about to dig his own grave with his mouth, and OP will keep you entertained for the next 40 minutes. The drama kicks off on a Friday evening when the electronics store is peacefully winding down after the sale ends. OP writes, I was behind the checkout counter, an old wooden counter full of scratches, next to a stack of crumpled receipts and several flyers reading 50% off before 10 p.m., cleaning up to close when Mr. T walked in. The store was open until 11 p.m., but the discount ended at 10 p.m., and it was already 10:15 p.m. Mr. T walked through the glass doors, phone in hand, scanning the store like he was looking for gold, and shouted over the pop music. "Hey! I want that TV, where's the 50% off?" I glanced at the wall clock, an old, cheap thing that always ran a little slow, and replied. "Sorry, sir. The discount ended at 10 p.m. The price is back to normal now." Mr. T frowned, voice booming. "I came here to buy it, give me the discount. I'm a regular customer." OP writes. I stood there, listening to Mr. T declare his entitlement, thinking, all right, you want to play? Let's play. What I really wanted to yell was, "Mr. T, if you're late, that's on you." The drama escalates as OP sticks to the rules and Mr. T makes himself look even worse. OP continues. I shrugged and pointed at the flyer on the counter. "Sorry, sir. The discount was only until 10 p.m. It's 10:15 now, so I can't offer it anymore." Mr. T's face turned red. He slammed his hand on the counter, making the papers scatter. "I drove 20 minutes to get here. Give me the discount now, or I won't buy it." I replied coolly. "Sir, then why didn't you come before 10 p.m.? Rules are rules." Mr. T roared. "How dare you speak to a customer like that? Call the manager." OP writes. I thought, all right, you want the manager? You'll get the manager. Mr. T stood there, hands on his hips. Other customers in the store, one guy picking out headphones and a lady browsing speakers, turned to watch. The guy mumbled. "He's late and still wants a discount? That's hilarious." Meanwhile, I was internally cheering, "OP, you made Mr. T embarrass himself in front of everyone." OP cranks up the drama by calling the manager, letting Mr. T dig his own grave. OP continues. I grabbed the store radio, an old, static-filled thing, and called. "Hoa, can you come to the counter?" Mr. T folded his arms, glaring at me like he wanted to eat me alive. "Just wait until the manager gets here. You'll be sorry." Hoa, the night shift manager, around 30 years old, wearing a dark blue polo, messy hair, walked out from the stockroom. "What's all the noise about?" Mr. T pointed at me. "This guy won't give me the discount. I'm a regular customer." I handed Hoa the flyer. "Sir, the discount ended at 10 p.m. It's 10:15 now. I'm just following store policy." Hoa checked the time, then turned to Mr. T. "Sorry, sir. The discount is over. If you had arrived before 10, we could have honored it." OP writes. Mr. T froze, mouth open, hands trembling. The other customers chuckled. The lady browsing speakers even shouted. "That's right. If you're late, that's on you." I was laughing inside. "OP, you made Mr. T shoot himself in the foot before the manager even stepped in." The drama heats up as Mr. T tries to salvage his pride but only humiliates himself further. OP continues. Mr. T yelled. "I refuse to accept this. Discounts should be honored. I'll report your store." Hoa remained unfazed. "Go ahead, sir. But that's the policy. I can't change it." Mr. T turned to me. "You just wait. I'm not buying anymore." I shrugged. "All right, sir. Come back tomorrow morning, there's another sale." He grumbled. Useless employees. Then he stomped towards the exit, but instead of leaving, he just stood outside, pointing at me through the glass like he was trying to intimidate me. OP writes. I stood there, watching Mr. T perform his drama outside, amused. The headphone guy clapped. "Good. Get rid of him so we can shop in peace." And I was overjoyed. OP, you made Mr. T humiliate himself right before closing time. The climax of the drama comes when Mr. T finally retreats in defeat. OP writes. I went back to cleaning the counter. Hoa chuckled. We get customers like this all the time. You handled it well. Mr. T stood outside for a while, staring at me as I cleaned, muttered something under his breath, then walked away with his phone in hand. Hoa turned to me. If he comes early tomorrow, just let me deal with him. OP continues. I went home and texted my friend about it. They laughed. Damn, you trolled that guy so hard. Who shows up late and still demands a discount? From that day on, I started joking with my coworkers. If a customer shows up after 10, just tell them to come before 10. I clapped. OP, you turned discount hours into an artful troll. A few days later, OP provided a hilarious update. Mr. T came back, before 10 p.m. He stood in line quietly. I asked Hoa. He's not demanding anything this time? Hoa laughed. Nope. Last time, he got shut down so hard, he learned his lesson. I thought. Mr. T, you lost to the entire store. OP, you not only won, you taught him to come early. What do you think? Is OP a genius, or is Mr. T just pitiful? Have you ever dealt with an entitled customer like this? Story 3, Drama. Me, 39F, and my depressed colleague, 44M, taking over my office life. Next, we have a best-of Redditor updates drama where OP has to deal with a depressed colleague who turns her office life into a nightmare. OP, a 39-year-old woman, works in a small office, the kind with cluttered wooden desks full of scattered papers, the lingering smell of stale coffee from an old machine, the rhythmic whirring of a printer mixed with the clattering of keyboards, and flickering fluorescent lights that seem on the verge of giving out. OP writes, I work with a 44-year-old depressed colleague, and he turned the office into his personal stage. I tried to help, but in the end, I had to choose between him and myself. The main character of this drama is Mr. D, the depressed colleague, whom OP describes as 44 years old, unkempt hair, wearing a wrinkled gray shirt, dark circles under his eyes like he hasn't slept in a week, a soft but gloomy voice, and an attitude as if the whole world owes him an apology. OP recounts, D started with complaints, then took over my time and space. I tried to sympathize, but his behavior drained me. OP just wanted to work in peace and go home to her family, but D's dependency led to an exhausting office drama that left me both sympathetic and uneasy. This is a story about kindness, boundaries, and an unexpected ending. Are you ready? Buckle up, because D is about to take over the scene, and OP will have you thinking about this for the next 40 minutes. The drama began on a Monday morning when the small office was peacefully playing old songs on the radio. OP recalls, I was at my desk, a worn wooden desk stained with coffee rings, next to a towering stack of reports, checking my emails when D walked in. He pulled up a chair next to me without knocking, without asking, just letting out a deep sigh like he was about to cry. I'm so tired, life is terrible. I looked up and forced a smile. Yeah, we all have tough days. Hang in there. But D didn't stop. He started unloading. My wife left me, my kids don't listen, I can't sleep. I nodded, thinking, okay, I'll listen for a bit, then get back to work. OP writes, I stood there, listening to D vent, thinking, alright, I'll let him talk a little so he can feel better. And I just wanted to scream, OP, you're too nice already. The drama escalated when D turned OP into his unwilling therapist. OP shares, the next day, D came again, sat next to my desk for an hour, and continued, I don't know how to go on, can you help me? I responded, maybe you should talk to our boss or seek professional help. D shook his head, no, you understand me best, you have to help. I was starting to feel exhausted but still tried, alright, let me make you some coffee. He nodded, then stayed next to me the entire morning, rambling non-stop. My work, a crucial report due by the end of the week, was stalled because D wouldn't leave me alone. OP writes, I thought, I just wanted to help a little, but why won't he stop? The office started murmuring. Hoa from accounting muttered, why does she let D cling to her like that? And I was just thinking, OP, your office life is being taken over. OP tried to set boundaries, but D pushed the drama further. OP recounts, by Wednesday, I said outright, D, I need to work, please go back to your desk. D looked at me, his eyes red, you're abandoning me? You're the only one I have. I panicked and replied, no, but I have work too, please understand. He didn't move, just sighed. You don't understand me, no one does. I stepped outside to get some air, and when I returned, there was a note on my desk. You're my only friend, please don't leave me, OP writes. I read the note and shuddered, thinking, helping is fine, but why is he so dependent? My boss, Lynn, a 45-year-old woman in a black suit with short hair, noticed my tension and asked, what's going on with D? I told her everything, and she frowned. Tell him to go to HR, don't let him drain you. And I was cheering, OP, you've done too much already, D is dragging you down. The drama intensified as D refused to change, forcing OP to take action. OP recounts, I went to HR and reported, D keeps clinging to me, I can't work. HR, Tuan, a 35-year-old man in a blue shirt, nodded, I'll tell him to see a counselor. But D didn't go. The next day, he returned to my desk, HR can't help, only you can. I had enough and said bluntly, D, I'm not a therapist, you need a professional, I have to work. He started crying right there, making the entire office stare, you're so heartless. Hoa from accounting yelled, D, stop making a scene, let people work. OP writes, I stood there, watching D cry, feeling both pity and exhaustion, thinking, I can't carry him forever. Then Lynn walked in, snapped, D, in my office, now. And I was laughing so hard, OP, you've taken this drama to its peak. The climax of the drama was when OP finally backed away, and D had to face the consequences. OP shares, Lynn forced D to see HR again, making him take leave and see a counselor. Before leaving, he turned to me and said, you ruined everything for me, I won't forget this. I shrugged, I just want to work, take care of yourself. D took 2 weeks off, then returned, but he never approached my desk again, just sat quietly in the corner. OP writes, I felt relieved and told my husband about it, and he said, you're too kind, but you need to set limits. Since then, I've learned how to say no, and D actually started seeing a counselor. And I was clapping, OP, you escaped D like a pro. After that, OP reflected, this whole thing taught me that kindness has limits, and I'm just glad to have my office life back. Reddit's comment section exploded like fireworks, busier than the office on a meeting day. The first camp, Team OP, argued, D was too much, you can't just rely on others like that, OP did the right thing. One person added, if I were OP, I'd switch desks immediately, no more helping. The second camp, Team D, said, come on, he was depressed, OP could have helped a little more, poor guy. Someone joked, next time, OP should just let D cry all day and see what HR does. I was laughing so hard but firmly on OP's side, D, depression is tough, but you can't force OP to carry you. I have a longer theory for you all to ponder, was D just depressed, or was he intentionally clinging to OP for attention? Maybe he thought, I'm suffering, so everyone must help me. But didn't expect OP to set boundaries and the whole office to turn against him? Or was he just overly dependent because he had no one else, thinking, OP is nice, I'll cling to her forever. Until he took it too far? I even suspect he created drama on purpose to gain sympathy, but he never expected Lynn and HR to shut it down. Either way, I think OP handled it brilliantly, not only escaping the burden but also turning D's dependency into a lesson for herself. But I also wonder, if OP had helped a little more, would D have changed? Or would he have clung forever? And if HR hadn't intervened, would the drama have dragged on even longer? Here's an interesting update from OP that made me think. Months later, D emailed her an apology. OP wrote, he said, I was wrong, thank you for not abandoning me at the start. I replied, wish you well, but I can't carry you. D now works normally, not clinging to anyone. And I thought, D, you finally learned. OP, you didn't just win, you made him realize something. What do you think? Was OP too harsh, or was D too much? Have you ever had a clingy colleague like this? Story 4, Drama. HR did nothing about my angry colleague after I got promoted. Next up, we have a drama from Best of Redditor updates, where OP had to deal with a resentful colleague who turned the office into a battleground after OP was promoted. OP is a 30-year-old employee working at a small insurance company, the kind of place with rows of wooden desks covered in stacks of insurance papers, the cheap scent of air fresheners mixing with the whirring sound of the photocopier, and the hushed gossip of coworkers blending with the creaky ceiling fan that sounds like it's about to fall. OP writes, "I got promoted to manager, but one of my colleagues lost it because she wasn't chosen. She made a mess of the office, and HR just sat there like a statue." The main antagonist of this drama is Ms. J, OP's resentful colleague, described as about 35 years old, with long black hair tied to the side, a wrinkled light blue blouse, thick-rimmed glasses, a voice as sharp as a knife, and an attitude that screamed she was the most deserving person in the company. OP recounts, "Ms. J started with snide remarks, then escalated to sabotage. I tried to keep the peace, but in the end, I had to handle it myself." OP just wanted to do well in their new role and avoid trouble, but Ms. J's bitterness set the stage for an office drama that was both hilarious and nerve-wracking. This is a story of promotion, jealousy, and an unexpected twist. Are you ready? Buckle up, because Ms. J is about to lose it, and OP is going to make you feel satisfied for the next 40 minutes. The drama began on a Tuesday morning when the small office was calm, with the radio playing insurance news in the background. OP writes, "I had just been promoted to team manager and was sitting at my new desk, a worn-out wooden desk by the window, covered in scratches and random sticky notes, reading a congratulatory email from my boss when Ms. J walked in. She stood in front of my desk, hands on her hips, eyes sharp as daggers. 'Congrats, new manager, you must be really good.' I looked up and smiled lightly. 'Thanks, I'll do my best.' Ms. J smirked. 'Yeah, do your best, let's see how long you last.' OP writes, "I stood there, listening to Ms. J's sarcasm, thinking, whatever, let her be. I'll just focus on my work." I, on the other hand, wanted to scream, "Ms. J, if you're jealous, just admit it." The drama escalated when Ms. J moved from sarcasm to outright sabotage. OP shares, "The next day, I was leading a team meeting. Ms. J sat at the far end of the table, saying nothing, just glaring at me like she wanted to devour me whole. I assigned tasks, and she interrupted, 'I've been doing this for years. Who do you think you are, telling me what to do?' I replied, 'Ms. J, this is the new plan. We all have to work together.' Ms. J scoffed, 'Oh, right, new manager, knows everything.' After the meeting, I discovered that the report I had assigned to Ms. J had disappeared. The Excel file I emailed was nowhere to be found. Ms. J shrugged and said, 'I never got it. Send it again.' OP writes, "I knew she was doing it on purpose." A coworker, Nam, about 28 years old, wearing a white shirt, whispered, "Ms. J is furious, be careful." And I thought, OP, you just got played by Ms. J. OP tried to report the issue to HR, but Ms. J only made things worse. OP continues, "I resent the file, this time taking a screenshot of my email as proof, but Ms. J still didn't do the work and let the deadline pass. I reported it to HR, Ms. J isn't cooperating, and it's affecting the whole team." HR, Ms. Lan, around 40, dressed in a gray suit, nodded, "I'll talk to her." But Ms. Lan only gave Ms. J a light warning, with no consequences. The next day, Ms. J came to my desk, slamming her coffee cup down so hard that the liquid splashed onto my desk. "Did you report me to HR? Don't think you're all that just because you got promoted." I replied, "Ms. J, I just want the team to run smoothly." Ms. J yelled, "I've been here for 10 years. You just got here, and now you think you can manage me?" OP writes, "I stood there, exhausted from Ms. J's outburst, thinking, HR won't do anything, so I have to handle this myself." Nam muttered, "Ms. J is losing it. Report her to upper management." And I smirked, OP, Ms. J is digging her own grave. The drama reached its peak when OP took matters into their own hands, and Ms. J brought her downfall upon herself. OP details, "I documented everything, emails, missed deadlines, her snide remarks, and sent them straight to upper management, specifically Mr. Hoa, about 50 years old, wearing a checkered dress shirt, with graying hair. I attached a note: Ms. J refuses to cooperate, and HR isn't addressing the issue. Mr. Hoa called for a team meeting and directly confronted Ms. J. Why aren't you doing your work? Ms. J turned red. She gives me unreasonable tasks. I can't do them. I presented my evidence. Here are the emails. Here are the deadlines. She didn't do her work. Mr. Hoa looked at Ms. J and said, "You messed up. Stop making excuses." Ms. J screamed, "I'm being forced out. I quit," and stormed out. OP writes, I stood there, watching Ms. J's dramatic exit, laughing to myself, thinking, good riddance. The whole team applauded, and Hoa from accounting shouted, "Great, one less troublemaker." And I was dying of laughter. OP, you made Ms. J drown in her own mess in front of the boss. The climax of the drama came when Ms. J left, and OP restored peace to the team. OP shares, Ms. J really quit, but she didn't go quietly. She sent an email to the entire company. I was forced out because of the new manager. Mr. Hoa publicly responded, "You left on your own because you refused to work. Don't blame others." Ms. J went silent after that. HR later apologized to me. I didn't think she'd take it this far. I shrugged. It's okay. I handled it myself. OP writes, I felt so relieved. When I told my friend about it, they said, "You handled that like a boss," taught her a lesson. After that, my team worked smoothly, and no one dared to cause trouble again. And I clapped. OP, you turned this promotion into a masterful knockout. Do you think OP handled it well? OP concludes, after all this, Ms. J became a cautionary tale about jealousy, and I was just happy to keep my position. The Reddit comments section exploded like fireworks, busier than the office on payday. The first camp, Team OP, cheered. Ms. J got what she deserved. Jealousy doesn't pay off, and OP handled it perfectly. One person added, if I were OP, I'd have sent the evidence sooner and gotten Ms. J fired immediately. The second camp, Team Ms. J, argued, come on, she worked there for years. OP could have been more understanding. HR was also terrible. Someone even joked, next time OP gets promoted, they should make Ms. J their assistant, see if she can handle it. I laughed so hard reading that but ultimately sided with OP. Ms. J, if you're jealous, own it. OP did everything right. A final plot twist, OP later updated with a hilarious detail. Months later, they found out that Ms. J struggled to find a new job due to her bad reputation. OP shared, Nam told me, Ms. J trashed our company, but it backfired, no one wanted to hire her. And I thought, Ms. J, you lost not just the job but the whole industry. OP, you didn't just win, you left a legendary mark. What do you think? Was OP too harsh, or was Ms. J too much? Have you ever dealt with a jealous coworker like this? And that's the story, an office drama that left me both satisfied and in stitches. A bitter colleague, a well-deserved downfall, who could have predicted it? Are you Team OP or Team Ms. J? Got your own workplace drama to share? Let me know, I'm all ears. Up next, we dive into a family meltdown. Don't go anywhere. Story 5, Drama, Update, I ruined my wife's life. Finally, we arrive at a best-of Redditor Updates drama where OP single-handedly destroyed his marriage and then tried to fix it, through tears and regret. OP is a 35-year-old man living in a small suburban house, the kind with an overgrown front yard, the scent of morning coffee drifting from the kitchen, an old TV crackling with news, birds chirping outside the window, and a once warm family atmosphere that has now turned cold as winter. OP writes, I cheated on my wife, she found out, and our life fell apart. I'm trying to make amends, but I don't know if it's too late. The main character of this drama is OP's wife, Mrs. L, whom OP describes as about 33 years old, long brown hair usually tied up, wearing a simple gray sweater, bright eyes now filled with darkness, a voice once gentle but now as cold as ice, and a demeanor that screams of lost faith. OP confesses, I had an affair with a coworker. Mrs. L found out, and the price I paid was losing everything. Now I'm trying to fix it, but she doesn't want me anymore. He thought he could keep it a secret forever, but the truth paved the way for a long, chilling family drama that made me both pity and shudder. This is a story of infidelity, regret, and a bitter ending. Are you ready? Brace yourself, because OP is about to dig his own grave, and Mrs. L will leave you thinking for the next 40 minutes. The drama began on a Friday evening, when their small house was filled with the comforting smell of grilled meat from the kitchen. OP recounts. I came home from work, a high-stress office job, my desk buried under paperwork and cold coffee, thinking I had successfully hidden my affair with coworker Kay from my wife. I walked into the kitchen and saw Mrs. L chopping vegetables. I asked, "How's your day?" She glanced at me, voice cold, "Good. And you?" I forced a smile, same as usual. But then she put down the knife, pulled out her phone, and held it up, "Same as usual, huh? Then what's this message?" I looked at the screen. It was a text I had sent Kay, "See you tonight, miss you." OP writes. I froze, staring at Mrs. L as my heart stopped, thinking, I'm screwed. And I just wanted to scream, "OP, you idiot. Why didn't you delete the message?" The drama escalated as Mrs. L confronted OP, and he dug himself deeper. OP continues. Mrs. L asked directly, "How long have you been sleeping with her?" I stammered, "No, it's just texting, I swear." She let out a shaky laugh, voice trembling, "Don't swear. I have pictures of you with her at a cafe last week." I panicked, dropped to my knees, and begged, "I was wrong, please forgive me." But Mrs. L shouted, "Forgive? You ruined my life, get out." I tried to hug her, but she pushed me away and pointed at the door, "Leave. Now." OP writes. I thought apologizing would fix everything, but Mrs. L wasn't giving me a chance. Our daughter, little M, 6 years old, ran out of her room crying, "Mommy, Daddy, are you fighting?" Mrs. L hugged her and turned away, "Your dad made a mistake, don't worry." And all I could think was, OP, you just destroyed your own family. OP tried to make amends, but Mrs. L escalated the drama even further. OP shares. I moved to the couch that night. The next day, I apologized again, "I'll stop seeing Kay, let's fix this." But Mrs. L was cold, "Fix? I don't trust you anymore." I called Kay and ended things right in front of her, but she didn't even care, "Nice performance. I'm filing for divorce." I pleaded, "Don't, for our child's sake." Mrs. L snapped, "If you cared about our child, you wouldn't have cheated." That very day, she called a lawyer. I overheard her say, "I want this divorce as soon as possible." OP writes. I stood there, hearing her decision, feeling like my world collapsed. My friend T told me, "Dude, UF ***, get up. Deal with it. ***." And I laughed out loud, "OP, you shot yourself in the foot." The drama reached its peak as Mrs. L took action and OP faced the consequences. OP recounts. Mrs. L packed up and moved back to her mother's house with our daughter, leaving me alone in our empty home. I went to work, but I couldn't focus. Even Kay texted, "Why are you ignoring me?" I blocked her immediately. I drove to my mother-in-law's house, got down on my knees, and begged, "Let me talk to L." Mrs. L's mom opened the door and snapped, "Get lost. Don't disturb my daughter." I went back home and found the divorce papers on the table, sent by her lawyer, demanding full custody of our child. OP writes. I stared at the papers and cried, thinking, I really ruined her life. My friend T called again, "You did this to yourself. How do you even fix it now?" And I burst out laughing, "OP, you turned yourself into a loser." The final blow came when OP tried to repair the damage, but Mrs. L shut the door on him forever. OP confesses. I went to therapy, wrote her a letter of apology. "I was wrong, please give me a chance to make it right." Mrs. L replied through her lawyer, "No need. Live with your mistakes." After the divorce, she won full custody of M, and I was only allowed to visit twice a month. The last time I saw her was at court. She looked at me and said, "You ruined my life. Now, I'll rebuild it myself." I just nodded, unable to say anything, and went home to cry alone. OP concludes. I told my friend T about it, and he said, losing your wife is what you deserve. Wake up. Now I live alone, trying to be a good dad from a distance. And I applauded, OP, you dug your own grave, and Mrs. L is a total badass. OP's story became a lesson on infidelity, while Mrs. L moved forward with strength. Reddit exploded with comments, bigger than a courtroom on a trial day. Team Mrs. L, she's amazing. OP got what he deserved. One person added, if I were her, I'd take all his money too. Team OP, come on, he regrets it. Mrs. L should have given him a second chance for their kid. Some even joked, next time, OP, delete your texts. I laughed reading it, but I sided with Mrs. L, OP, you destroyed yourself. Mrs. L did the right thing. One final update from OP left me thinking. Months later, he saw Mrs. L post a picture on social media, smiling radiantly with their daughter. OP wrote. I messaged, wishing you happiness. She never replied, but I felt lighter. And I thought, Mrs. L, you won at life. OP, you lost, but at least you learned. What do you think? Was OP irredeemable, or was Mrs. L too harsh? Have you ever seen a cheating drama like this? And that's the final story of today's Best Off Redditor updates. A husband cheats, ruins his wife's life, and in the end, loses everything because Mrs. L was too strong to be broken. Who saw that coming? Are you Team OP or Team Mrs. L? Do you have any family drama stories to share? Leave a comment, I'm curious. That's all for today, thanks for watching, and see you next time.